Back live at Daytona International Speedway. Good to have you with us on Fox Sports 1 as we open up 2015 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Cars have rolled off the grid, and crews are making their final preparations. We talked about qualifying earlier today. On the pole for the 11th time in his career, Austin Dillon running 20 races this season. A limited schedule for Justin Marks, who has got his best career start. Row 2, Chad Boat, an underdog who had anxiety about even making the race alongside Brendan Gaughan, a two-time winner a year ago. And now let's welcome in our pit reporters and send it down to Matt Yoakum. Good afternoon, Matt.
Hey, Double A, qualifying was definitely exciting, putting Austin Dillon on pole for the second time in his Xfinity career here at Daytona. One big plus from winning that pole, lane choice. Now he'll move from the inside to the outside because his teammate, Brendan Gaughan, is in row 2. Now they're going to try to team up much of this event. Now the big orders to his spotter, Andy Houston, keep me near the front as much as possible. You're never safe anywhere, but odds are greater you'll be in a safer position up front. And remember, he has not won an Xfinity competition in nearly 2.5 years. Vince Welsh?
Well, Matt, one of the joys of the Xfinity Series is the grooming of young talent. And in the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing today is 18-year-old Eric Jones. He's considered a can't-miss prospect in this garage. He ran just 3 Xfinity races last year and was top 10 in all 3. Last night, he finished second in the Truck Series. He says staying out of trouble is the key, but at the end of the race, I feel like we can win. He wasn't bragging. He's that good. Jamie?
Well, Chase Elliott is coming off a dream season, winning the championship in 3 wins, but that's not good enough for him. He told me this morning he wants to better himself, and Daytona is on that list. In both Daytona races last year, he finished outside the top 10, something he didn't do very often. He said he took notes. He has a new plan, and that plan, of course, involves his new crew chief, Ernie Cope, on top of the pit box. Adam?
Thank you, Jamie. And this is a big year for Ernie Cope because this is the first time in a number of years that he's actually been crew chief for a team that's going for the championship. He's been one of those all-star crew chiefs.
I just love the way we're kicking off today's race. We're starting a new era with the Xfinity Series. And listen to some of the names we said. J.J. Yaley could win this race. Justin Marks on the front row. We haven't even mentioned Kyle Busch, and we haven't even mentioned Brad Keselowski, a couple of guys that we know are going to race their way to the front. There's so many unanswered questions and so many great storylines.
Oh, by the way, those two drivers combined for 12 wins a year ago.
Yeah, this is just a great series. When you mix up that talent and you have those young guys come in with that enthusiasm, sure they might, do something that they shouldn't do, but it sure is exciting to watch.
It is. You're going to find out, Kevin, setting up here and watching people do stuff they shouldn't do is way more fun than when you're on the track and they do it.
Yeah, I agree. I watched qualifying earlier, and it was fun to watch, but man, I'm glad I don't have to pay those bills.
You've been down that road, right?
Yeah, that's definitely an expensive qualifying session for sure.
You saw our Toyota Camry pace car, the 2015 model, leading these 40 NASCAR Xfinity cars around the 2.5-mile tri-oval that is Daytona International Speedway. The off-season, it's over. It's time now to go green. In 2015, put it in the air and let's get down to business at Daytona.
We saw Brendan Gaughan dive to the bottom of the racetrack. That's going to give our pole sitter, Austin Dillon, a chance to do the same. Those 2 team cars now will line up at the front of the pack.
Yeah, and I think as you see Austin moving back and forth right here, right now he's just trying to manipulate those 2 lanes to keep himself in the front. And you got these guys coming from the back of the pack, and they're pushing and shoving. And really, this is the time you can make up the most ground from the rear of the field because you carry all that momentum all the way through the field.
And Kevin, I'm not kidding. We watched Kyle Busch in practice make some moves that were incredible. We know he's going to do that in the race, and he's already 3 wide on the outside trying to push his way to the front.
9 times out of 10, the aggressor is going to be successful on a super speedway race because you have to push, you have to shove, and you have to take. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and the guy that is conservative wins, but we're already 3 wide, so
And the guy leading that tow on the outside, Ty Dillon, who has been knifing through the field here in our first couple of laps.
Absolutely, and when that top line is formed up like that, it's going to carry more momentum than the bottom. And right now, Austin, those guys are coming so fast that he can't block them.
How busy is Austin up there just trying to watch 2 different lanes besides his and block them all and keep the lead? It's really difficult.
It is very difficult because you're trying to drive forward at 195, 200 miles an hour, and the next thing you know, you're looking backwards than you are, more than you are forward. So these guys are going for it right off the bat.
Now, I spent a little time out in L.A. last fall, and I ran on the 405. We were 3 wide. These boys are 3 wide at 190 miles an hour.
Yeah, and they are not messing around. This is 3 wide all the way back through the field. So this is the kind of racing that the fans love to see, and I'm so glad that these guys are racing this hard right off the bat.
Wow.
I said Ty Dillon was on the move, up 25 positions in the first 2 laps of this race, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. started dead last. He, too, is up inside the top 20 early.
How does he do it? Every time he finds a gap, he finds a lane, he makes his way from the back to the front in a hurry, all the way from last to the top 15.
Yeah, and I think the kid leading this race, Chris Buescher, is a kid that is probably a little bit underrated. I mean, he had a great season last year, drove right up to the front, and has gained a lot of experience through last year. So I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with this year.
And you know, Adam, right now these cars are handling as good as they're going to handle all day long. The track is fresh, it's green. There's also a lot of grip right now on the tires, and these guys are able to make these 3 wide moves. As the cars start to go away, the tires get a little bit slippery, the temperature comes up. That's going to be even harder and harder.
Yeah, and I think as you see, if you go back to that lead car and you look at the front of that grille, he's already got some stuff on the front of that grille, and that's very Daytona. As you start these races, you get trash on the grille, and he's got a ton of trash on the grille. So if he gets anywhere but where he's at, that M&M wrapper is going to have him in big trouble.
I'm sure he loves M&Ms, but not right now. And,
yeah.
And try to explain to people how tight those grills. I mean, they have a very small opening in the front to get those temperatures where they need them.
Yeah, and NASCAR really wants us to not push and get that tandem draft. So they have limited the grill space that we can have open. So that grill is small, and they have made it as pretty much as small as they can make it without the engines blowing up, so you can't push.
Austin Dillon, who led the first couple of laps, has now fallen in line 5th on that inside lane. His brother Ty a couple of spots in front of him.
Now, didn't Ty start 33rd, like deep in the field?
Up 25 positions or 24, whatever it is.
Holy cow, what a move for him.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing right now, you're seeing the guys that want to race hard right from the beginning, and you're seeing that backpack start to form as we go through the first part of this race.
Haven't talked about the man that won this race 1 year ago. Regan Smith started 12th today. He's up in the 2nd position and also up in that lead mix. You talked about Chris Buescher, the young kid from the Roush Fenway organization. Ryan Reed up in that lead mix in the 16 car as well.
Yeah, and this is a great place for those kids to shine. I mean, they have a lot of experience that they have gained from last year. They know that when they come to these super speedway races that this is their most realistic chance to win races and make something happen and really shine. And in the end, we all know this is the biggest race of the year for the Xfinity Series, just as it is for the Daytona 500.
And you know, you talked a little bit about Chris Buescher and the fact that he is the real deal. He's able to run up front. He went from not qualifying at Daytona here a year ago to leading the race now, and he was 2nd at Talladega, so he catches on really fast.
Absolutely.
Couple old friends working together here. Bubba Wallace, who's now driving for Jack Roush, getting a push from his old boss, Kyle Busch.
Sometimes these pushes are hairy, especially in the tri-oval, and you can see Kyle is kind of back and forth with Bubba. Whew, that's a close one.
Nice
when you're coming through that tri-oval, it's not the place to be pushing and shoving because you can see the curvature of those rear bumpers and the front bumpers in that shot right there, and you have about a 6-inch window that you can push straight. And in these cars, you have a little more sponge than the Cup cars, but that window of opportunity to push correctly is very, very small, let alone in that tri-oval.
Michael, look who's behind Kyle Busch. It's Daniel Suarez, one of those involved in the wreck earlier today in qualifying. Backup car, 23-year-old, 3rd career start, and he's already working his way through the field at Daytona. That is impressive.
We talked about Brad Keselowski. He's pushed his way right up there as well. Daniel Suarez needs to prove something today. He made a mistake in qualifying. He caused a crash. If he can run up front, get through this race clean, people will look at him differently when he leaves Daytona. He won't be remembered for that qualifying crash. He'll be remembered for his performance during the race.
Last Saturday in ARCA competition, he finished 2nd. Top 10 last night in the Camping World Truck Series. But here he is running for a championship in his rookie campaign in the Xfinity Series. So so far so good. The Monterrey, Mexico native finds himself running 8th after dropping to the rear in a backup car.
The start couldn't have gone much better. We were 3 wide. We're side by side. It's had it all.
It was exciting to start with, that's for sure.
And we're only 7 laps into the 120 that make up today's event. It's the Alert Today Florida 300. We're live in Daytona Beach, Florida. It's the season opener for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Good. Ten laps into today's 300-miler here at Daytona International Speedway for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He started 34th, but the man that finished 5th in the championship 1 year ago has already pushed his way to the lead. Ty Dillon making that outside lane work.
That's the first lap he's led here at Daytona, too. That's got to feel good.
And that was moments ago. He's now slid down to that inside lane, and that means Chris Buescher is tucked up behind him.
Watch this tandem on the outside, though. Kyle Busch has been really pushing Bubba Wallace. You saw the contact in the tri-oval. Kyle's giving him some coaching and direction from inside the cockpit, and they're pushing for the lead.
And you can really see how these cars, they love the tandem draft, and these guys have to do everything they can. It's almost hard to get detached when you're in certain situations where you see all these cars on the outside line stacked up. It's hard for Kyle to get detached from that guy's bumper because it's almost like a magnet as you get attached to him.
And it looks like Kyle's nervous, bumping him, back. That's the rule. You can't stay attached to the car in front of you, and he's doing an amazing job of keeping contact, but yet not being totally locked up.
And I wish I could explain to you how nerve-wracking it is to sit in this car, and when you add a rule like that to where you know that you can't just lay on that guy's back bumper and you have to come off the bumper and then go back onto the bumper and come back off again. Whoa. That's harder than anything because you have to sit there and make sure that you're not attached to the guy's bumper. So it's very difficult, and he's doing a great job.
This is textbook rule following by Kyle Busch. He's able to push Bubba to the front. Like Kevin said, a really difficult job what he's doing. And you saw he had Bubba sideways a couple of times now. I'm sure Bubba's enjoying leading the race. I'm not so sure how much he's enjoyed getting the lead.
Well, I think, you know, a lot of these young kids, they really love this speedway racing, so they love the pushing and shoving. And if you don't like to be pushed and shoved and knocked around, you're probably not going to be very successful at this type of racing.
How good is Jack Roush feeling today? He's got 3 young kids. Bubba Wallace, who's running for Rookie of the Year, who just went to the front. All of those kids doing a nice job today. Also Ryan Reed, and of course we talked earlier about Chris Buescher. And you guys have had so much success here at Daytona. You know how key communication is. Listen to this from Team 54 and Team 6 moments ago.
Tell them to stretch out on the straightaways. Go to the wall on the straightaways. Get off the inside row.
I think what he wants...
Tight on your door. Tight on your door. KB says spread it out on the straightaways. Stall them in the corners.
I think what he's hoping to do is maybe get a run against them in the corner and then gap them on the straightaway. Just playing around, seeing what kind of momentum that can create for those two.
Yeah, and I think when you look and see what they're trying to do right here, they're trying to slow that inside lane down. But as you go up that hill and you come off of that corner, you can kind of get a run down that hill and really allow Kyle to push you down the back straightaway to where the side draft doesn't slow that momentum down on the outside.
And you can see he's doing it now. Bubba's separated from the inside line, and look at the run they're making. Turns out Kyle's actually pretty good at this. Maybe Bubba following his direction is a really good idea. And remember, that's a Toyota pushing a Ford. So at this point in the race, you're just trying to get to the front no matter how you get there.
Yeah, and I think that the thing about these two guys, though, is they know each other really well from the truck days. So even though they may be in different manufacturers, Darrell really trusts Kyle pushing him, and Kyle trusts pushing him because they've worked together so much.
And don't forget this about Kyle Busch. He started outside the top 30. Right now, he's 3rd, Vince.
Well, and Kyle Busch is one of those drivers that he's always got his eye on those around him. You heard him talking about what he wanted from Bubba Wallace. He's got a rookie and a teammate behind him in Daniel Suarez. And he's also got to keep an eye on his temperatures. His crew chief, Chris Gale, just told him a moment ago, keep an eye on those temps. If you've got to dart out and get some air to the car, do it. So there's a lot to keep an eye on for the 54 of Kyle Busch right now.
Oh, it makes me nervous when you catch a slower car down in the corner and have to go 3 wide. That difference in speed, having to adjust your line to go around him, that's a recipe for disaster. But the field did a great job working their way around Blake Cook.
You always dread where you're going to catch those guys, and you can see when it's coming to the tri-oval or it's coming to the corner and that snake effect starts to happen and guys have to start weaving in and out. It just takes such the slightest touch to spin one of these cars out. So you just hope that everybody dances together.
We started side by side, and we've stayed that way for that lead pack. But there's a number of other drivers that have drifted back. Elliott Sadler is 22nd. Back there with him, guys like Chase Elliott, Dale Earnhardt Jr. biding their time for the run here at Daytona. Right now, it's Ty Dillon on top. Traffic quiet today on Speedway Boulevard here in Daytona Beach, Florida. But you go over to Daytona International Speedway and things totally different. They continue to run 2 wide and 10 deep here at Daytona International Speedway, the world center of racing, hosting the season opener for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Right now, Ty Dillon in that inside lane working out front with another young gun, Darrell Wallace Jr., making his debut for the Roush Fenway organization, and both these drivers getting it done here in the early going.
Having to work around another slow car too. You could see Ty Dillon had to work his way up the track. Leads the field above that lap car. Kevin pointed out there's about 3 or 4 lap cars or slower cars up ahead. When they catch that group, it's just when intensity picks up, the action seems to pick up.
It makes us very nervous as drivers, doesn't it? Because we're standing up here, we're really stressed out about it. I know everybody that's home is probably like, why do you keep talking about the lap cars? Because anytime those lanes start moving and snaking around like that, it becomes treacherous really quick.
And you know, that lead pack is side by side. That's intense. We go back to the second pack. You can see Elliott Sadler just coming to the start-finish line there. Those guys are single file. They're just riding along.
Yeah, and those guys in that second pack that are single file, when you look at the scoring monitor here, those guys can catch that pack in 3 or 4 laps no problem when they line up. So they're playing it safe back there. You've got a couple guys, a couple lap cars in the middle of those 2 packs, but that single file pack, as long as that lead pack stays side by side, they can catch them anytime.
Kevin, you talked earlier about how stressful it is behind the wheel of these race cars, and under those circumstances, it's always good to get a little friendly advice. Listen to Ty Dillon's radio.
How's everything? Take a little breather. Get your fingers all undone.
I've watched most of this race out of my mirror.
Yep. Let's lower our guard down here. Let's try and keep going on as best we can on the lead here. Outside corner.
It's always nice to be reminded that you got to keep on top of your game. And Ty has done an amazing job racing to the back to the front. Hasn't led here at Daytona until today. Led 10 laps so far today.
Well, I think when you hear that advice, that is very good advice, because I think that's what happens a lot of times in these races is people get lazy and they don't pay attention to what's going on, and you think you're in a safe spot. If you are in that pack, you are never in a safe spot, because something can happen at any moment.
Look at this push that Kyle Busch and Bubba Wallace are getting right now as they race toward the front. You're right. Lines move, things change, the handling goes away. You got to stay right on top of that wheel.
We mentioned his name earlier, Daniel Suarez.
That scared me.
Yeah, that scared me too.
An anxious moment there. Suarez right now, 3rd in line in that outside lane. It's been impressive in a backup car, Jamie.
He really has. What a day. Talk about an anxious moment. He was caught up in that qualifying wreck. The team had 3 hours to prep his backup car and get that set up as close to the primary as possible. They did a great job. He's just telling his team he's a little bit tight, but he's exactly where he wants to be right now. Started in the back. Now he's behind his teammate.
Well, I think when we talk about that 18 car, if he stays between Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski today, he's probably going to have a really good day. So I wouldn't try to pass a car. I wouldn't try to move a car. And here we go through more lap traffic.
You're exactly right. That's a great place for that young man to be, especially after the trouble he had during qualifying. Just build some confidence, log some laps, do your job, stay on top of the wheel, in your game, and don't give Brad a hint of a hole to dive in, because you know he will.
Not one hint, because you are in a really good spot. And as a rookie, I mean, this is a race where if you have a fast car like Daniel does, you can put yourself in a position like that to capitalize on a good day and earn the trust of a lot of guys around you.
You saw all the leaders go by that lap traffic. The differential in speed, more than 10 miles per hour, speaks to what you guys talk to and why you get so anxious when you're watching them come up on those slower vehicles.
And you know, it just changes the dynamic of that draft. You can see the cars are bunched together more at the front of that field. When you go around other cars, it slows you down. It gives the guys in the back a chance to pull up. So it just changes a lot of things when you catch lap traffic.
And another thing that happens too is usually the inside car gets a little bit of a hint of draft, and that inside line will pick up, and then that accordion will start, and that's when you have a chance to start shuffling things around and gain or lose positions.
Not real surprising to see these two together, huh?
Yeah, and as this pack develops up in the front and these guys continue to race, you know, I'm a guy that I've been on both sides of this strategy, but as these guys race all day up front, if they can keep it together all day, they know exactly where to put their cars. They have that experience and know what they need to do the closer this race is, because they've done it all day. So I like the front of the pack strategy.
We're closing on the 1/4 point in today's 300-mile race at Daytona. It's the season opener for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Ty Dillon out front at Daytona. .30 of 120 laps complete for the NASCAR Xfinity Series here at Daytona International Speedway. Darrell Wallace Jr., Ty Dillon, Kyle Busch, Chris Buescher, Daniel Suarez, the top 5. And did you know 1 year ago in the season opener here at Daytona, we had 9 lead changes. We're a quarter of the way through today's season opener here in 2015, and already we've had 13 lead changes. It's been outstanding on track.
Those two at the front change it about every lap. Ty Dillon gets pushed ahead a bit, and then Kyle will get a hold of Bubba and shove him to the lead. Last time by it was Darrell Wallace Jr., and he's going to lead another lap.
And I tell you, that's really just how our sport is. Everybody realizes that if you're going to win this race, most likely you're going to need to be in the front of the pack. So everybody's more aggressive, it seems like, in this race than they were last year, because they want to try to position themselves throughout the day to stay up front.
Big shove in that outside lane for Darrell Wallace Jr., who has led 12 laps here today, 32 laps in at Daytona. So let's go Fox Sports 1 style and crank it up. the sights and sounds of Daytona International Speedway, and a special thanks to our crew behind the scenes that do such an amazing job throughout our Budweiser Speed Weeks coverage. So here we are, 33 laps in. We'll bring in our crew chief, Larry McReynolds. And Larry, it won't be long before these drivers are having to come down pit road under green.
Yeah, Adam, a couple of things I want to point out. Now, I personally, with going this far into green, I would go with 4 tires because you're going to have to wait on the fuel. And this would make it where you can do it on 1 or 2 more stops. But if some of these crew chiefs are thinking about just right side tires, the last thing these drivers want to do is slide their tires coming on the pit road. The other thing, for all of these drivers in this race that are not competing in Sprint Cup, this will be the first time that they and their crews will have to deal with the new pit road officiating system, where NASCAR is really monitoring different pit road rules as far as over the wall too soon or driving through too many pit boxes coming in or leaving.
Well, I think when you look at what's getting ready to happen here, you're getting ready to pit under green, and you're seeing that second pack come up and catch the first pack because they don't want to take a chance of losing that pack when they come off of pit road. So they need to be as far up or as close to this lead pack when they start coming to pit road so they don't lose the draft and lose what they think is a safe distance. So they're trying to position themselves to pit. And for me, this is the most nerve-wracking part about super speedway racing, is when we have this pack and everybody tries to start orchestrating pit stops.
It's counting down too. There's 5 laps, 4 laps. We think they're going to stop at lap 39 or so. They had the pace laps before the race. The gas window is probably about 45 laps. They'll stop a little bit early here in the early going. What I love about my NASCAR right now in the top 6, we got 2 Fords, 2 Chevys, and 2 Toyotas. Parity and a lot of fun up front.
And right behind those top 6, the 7th place runner of Brad Keselowski. An interesting conversation talking strategy on team radio a moment ago.
He can come lap 41 with the 6. 41 with the 6. 54 should be lap 40.
Yeah, and this could work out several ways. You know, if you have the majority of the pack pit first, and you get a majority of those cars to come off a pit road together and they get lined up, they're going to take off. So there's a lot of strategy that comes into when you pit.
And Bubba just shucked Kyle. Bubba dove to the bottom of the racetrack and left Kyle Busch hanging.
When we get back, green flags, pit stops. You're watching NASCAR on Fox Sports 1.
You're watching Fox Sports 1, NASCAR.
Four tires for Jones.
Back live at Daytona International Speedway, and the first round of green flag pit stops is underway. The cycle of drivers coming down at lap 38. Last year's winner, Regan Smith, among those, Justin Marks, and also the 20 of Eric Jones getting service.
Yeah, and everybody's getting nervous. They don't want to run out of gas, knowing that they had to run some pace laps. And here comes another group of them. And you see tires smoking, and there's some guys carrying some pretty heavy speed there.
Daniel Suarez, one of those coming onto pit road. He was nearly sideways. What a mess at pit entrance.
As was Brian Scott. He slid his tires all the way to the pit line. He's got a flat right front too, so hopefully they'll get 4 tires on that car.
Let's go to Vince Welsh.
Kyle Busch says the only reason the outside line's been moving is because he's been doing all the work. They helped him out with a little bit of a chassis adjustment there to help his balance. It's a 4-tire change for Kyle Busch. All well so far for the 54.
Daniel Suarez missed his pit. He also slid his tires. Kevin, I'm be surprised if this car can make it back to the pits without blowing one of those tires. Watch him smoking these tires.
Yeah, and he just totally blew by his pit, and we had a couple cars run into each other, and this is why you have to practice getting on pit road, because when it's game time like this, it becomes a really intense situation.
Brendan Gaughan among those coming down now. The third consecutive lap we've seen drivers making pit stops under green here at Daytona. Also in Bubba Wallace, who's led laps. The same for Ty Dillon, who's been out front for 15 circuits today. Let's go to Matt.
And Ty Dillon saying that his car overall is very good, but the temperatures are good as well. If they wanted to add tape to get a little more speed in the car, they could. Meanwhile, up front, the pole sitter, his brother, Austin Dillon, chassis adjustment, trying to improve the balance on his car. 4 tires for the 33.
And as those drivers exit pit road, Matt, the majority of the front runners have now gotten their service under green. Here's Daniel Suarez 1 lap late. Jamie?
Well, good news for him. He did make it all the way around after sliding those tires. The crew was ready to service 4 tires here. Remember, this is just his 3rd ever Xfinity Series race. It's a lot to take in. It's very new for him. And he just about stalls it on the exit.
Been a rough day for Daniel Suarez, the rookie out of Monterrey, Mexico, making his 3rd career start in the Xfinity Series here today. Crashed in qualifying earlier, went to a backup, had worked his way into the top 5, but then an issue getting on pit road, and now he's lost a ton of track position. And now that things have cycled through, here we are back on point. Ty Dillon has the race advantage.
Be hearing some pit road penalties from the Pro trailer, NASCAR's new pit road surveillance. We're hearing right now that 51 of Jeremy Clements is going to receive a penalty, as is 01 of Landon Castle. A tire got away from that team. If that's all we get out of all that action.
I about jumped out the window out here when I saw the 18 and all the mess happening in front of us. But I think right now you're seeing the pack that is separated, how they came back onto the racetrack. You got experience in the front and you got inexperience in the back on how to come to pit road.
Speaking of experience, here come the 54 and the 88 on the move. A couple of Cup veterans looking for the point at Daytona.
Dale Jr. moved up behind Kyle Busch.
And I think these guys knew. I think they played it pretty smart. They got aggressive right before the pit stop. They got on the pit road. They did their pit stop, and the next thing you know, they are in the lead pack with the experienced guys that they want to be around. And then you had the inexperienced guys that didn't do a great job with their first time getting on pit road. Kind of separated themselves into the back half of the field. So that was an interesting pit stop.
Dale Jr. went to pit road running 21st, comes off challenging for the lead, running in 2nd spot. So you're right, Kevin. Not only a great pit stop by his team, but getting to that speeding line and then getting back on the track. Obviously, Dale Jr. overachieved.
Yeah, and I think as you see the front of this pack, I mean, Kyle and Dale and a lot of these guys, they've already raced 2 or 3 times as we've gone through the weekend. Well, 2, I think, as we've gone through the weekend. So you've been on the pit road, you've been through practices, and I still practice every week getting on and off the pit road because it's just so hard to do.
We promised you off the top today's race would be entertaining. How about this? Dale Earnhardt Jr. up 30 spots, 27 for Kyle Busch. Ty Dillon, who's led more laps than anybody, up 24 positions. And you're on board with a man who won the championship last year. Chase Elliott finds himself 12th in the running order and still very much a part of the equation here at Daytona. Today's aerial coverage at Daytona provided by Goodyear. Everything they learn making tires for the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what rolls into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. We're 47 laps into the 120 that make up today's Alert Today Florida 300 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And no real big surprise here. Kyle Busch, Dale Earnhardt Jr. out front.
Yeah, and that tiny little pack of 6 running along on the bottom by themselves, having a good time right now, just enjoying a little Saturday afternoon drive. But when they look in the mirror, there's about 20 cars that are running a couple of tenths of a second a lap faster than them, and they're getting ready to have company.
Yeah, and I tell you what, if those guys could just stay single file and just calm down for just a minute, they'd all be right back up in the front of that pack. So it's amazing how much it slows everything down when they get side by side like that.
We saw him lap past Daniel Suarez. Daniel had a problem getting to pit road. Puts him a lap down. He's currently the first car lap down though, so a caution would propel him back to the lead lap. He can hang on to that draft too, so there's still a lot of racing. Daniel, like I said, he got off to a great start today in this race after a mistake qualifying, and now he needs to rebound from another mistake that he made getting to pit road.
Well, he's lucky that he made a mistake and it's still rolling, so he can continue to race and gather experience and do the things that he needs to do and try to finish this race, even though he made a mistake. That doesn't happen all the time here.
And even an early pit road mistake you can overcome. You do that on the last stop, you're in trouble, but he's got a chance to, like you said, Kevin, overcome that.
Absolutely.
Still make a good day of it.
And you always get the feeling here, because the opportunity for multiple cautions in a short period of time and the fact that that can take out so many competitors, if you were to have the big one, you're really never out of it here. You got to go pretty deep in the race before you feel like you're out of contention at a place like Daytona.
Yeah, and
Brad Keselowski right now finds himself in the 20th position. What are they saying here in the middle stages of the race?
Almost had too good of a pit stop. We got so far out in front.
Yeah, nobody works together. They're so worried about passing each other while they're getting up to speed. You're getting a run going.
Yeah, and that's really just right back to what we were talking about. If these guys would just be patient for 7 or 8 laps, they'd all form right back up into this group. But that second pack is racing harder than the first pack, and they're side by side and shuffling back and forth, and that's exactly what Brad was talking about. Let's get off pit road, let's get single file and get everything formed back up before we start hurting ourselves.
Old teammates working together here, maybe working against each other, bouncing off one another in the draft.
That's Bubba Wallace and Eric Jones just decided to trade a little paint.
That's right.
In the tri-oval, and that's not the best plan here midway through this, or before halfway through this race.
Yeah, and I think that had a lot to do with that 13 car. I think they were going by to lap him, and I don't think the 6 knew he was coming, and the 20 kind of swerved up a little later than he had anticipated.
It's Bubba Wallace in that blue number 6, the Ford for Jack Roush, and that white 20 you saw in the middle. Eric Jones, the young sensation who's running for the championship in the Camping World Truck Series and was a runner-up here last night. You know, in July, we went 53 laps before we had our first caution, 51, and we're caution-free so far today here at Daytona. Back live at Daytona, and now our tax slayer, top of the board. Kyle Busch has led the last 13 laps. He's out front. Long way to go to get to the 1,700 plus he led in 2014. Dale Jr. is second. He's won 6 times here in the Xfinity Series. The team car that won here a year ago, Regan Smith, is third. Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher complete the top 5. We're 55 laps in, 5 short of halfway here at Daytona. Let's get a report from pit road. Jamie, what's going on?
Well, Chase Elliott just took left sides on that stop, so I thought it was interesting. I wanted to ask his crew chief, Ernie Cope, what was your mindset going into that pit stop to take lefts only?
Well, we run so much rebound on the front of these shocks, and I've done it before here. We've taken 4 tires, and the tire comes out so slow. I just want to take a chance having an 18 or 19 second stop, and so I just thought it'd be the right thing to do on the Napa Chevrolet to take 2 tires, not take a chance. Tires haven't been wearing, and that was my thought process. And I'd also like to thank Xfinity and welcome aboard.
Kevin Harvick, this man was your crew chief for a long time. What do you think of the call?
Yeah, well, that's been his strategy on the speedways for a long time. So you as a crew chief, you have to roll with things that you know, and you try to do things that have worked for you in the past. And last year it worked with Casey Kane, and it's worked for us in the past with Tony Stewart and Ernie working together. So they've done a lot of this speedway racing.
Remember that little tidy pack of 6 I talked of earlier?
Cue the Jaws music, right? Here, Donna, Donna, here they come.
That's all done now, and those guys that have caught them are now going to try to figure out a way to pass them. We're going to see some dicing up toward the front.
Talked a lot today about Bubba Wallace. You see him in the 6 here, right behind Ty Dillon in the orange and black number 3.
Well, he's been pushed all day long by Kyle Busch. Maybe he wants to try a little pushing himself. It looks like he knocked the 3 of Ty Dillon sideways. Let's see.
Halfback coming 9. 1-2 up top.
You think Ty had about enough of that?
I think he was actually trying to come down and get behind his brother, it looked like, but it was just bad timing, which is what creates a lot of these wrecks.
What are they saying, Matt?
That's exactly, Kevin, what they were telling him on the radio. Billy O'Day was telling him they were trying to get down to the bottom because the bottom lane appeared to be moving much better than the outside. And just then when the hole opened up, he said, get to the bottom if you can. And it was almost perfect timing. He said he just is having a hard time holding on to the car, though, in the draft.
Now that was a cool move right there. You saw Austin Dillon. He saw his brother Ty to the outside. They jumped up there and just about got messed up by Bubba Wallace, but then Brendan Gaughan pulled in behind those 2 brothers and pushed them ahead. So that's some synchronized racing right there between those teammates.
Yeah, and it sounds like those guys have been trying to get those RCR cars lined back up. So they've got 3 of the 4 lined up right now.
And Bubba Wallace is now starting to drift back and in danger perhaps of losing the tail end of that group.
Sometimes you just need a break. You wind up, getting turned sideways or turning somebody sideways, and you're in a bad spot, and you get stuck in the middle or outside or something going wrong, and you're like, all right, I got to go back and catch my breath, and then I'm going to go back at it again. So maybe that's what happened. I don't know.
Well, Bubba did a nice job. He was in a position he needed to be, but he got overtaken by those 3 teammates and pushed him to the back. But Bubba's rebounded now, and he's going to hang right in behind Brad Keselowski. That's a fellow blue oval. He sees him. He says, that's some friendly territory. I'll go push him a bit.
When he crosses the start-finish line next time around, Kyle Busch will have led the most laps here at Daytona today. 19 circuits out front for the man that won 7 times a year ago.
The Xfinity Series has a new name and a new home right here on Fox Sports 1.
63 laps in here at Daytona International Speedway. 300 miles to open up the season for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And now our Ford Track Fact. The inaugural Xfinity Series race back in 1982, won by Dale Earnhardt, one of his 7 wins here. And only 4 of 44 races won from the pole. Not good for Austin Dillon, who started out front today.
Well, that tells you how much shuffling goes on during the course of one of these Xfinity races here at Daytona. You can start anywhere and win.
I tell you what, I love the roof cam on the top of that 6 car because you can really see how these cars are dancing around, and he's now trying to figure out how he's going to get back up through the pack because he was in the front all day, and now he's got shuffled to the back, and now he's got to figure out how to push and shove his way back up through there.
Why don't you show us what kind of broadcaster you really are and put a circle around that 6 car and that roof cam with your telestrator, Mr. Harvick?
Wait. There he is right there.
How about that?
Right. It's hard when they're on the move. It's hard when they're on the move to circle them.
That's right.
But you did a nice job. Hey, let's get a report on Bubba Wallace. What's going on there, Vince?
Well, when Bubba slipped back several positions, I think you guys summed it up best that maybe there wasn't something wrong. He was just going back to regroup. I spoke with the team. They said that was exactly the case. Didn't communicate at all on the radio. Went back, settled himself, and is now moving toward the front. He had a top 10 finish here a year ago. He's comfortable on these tracks, as comfortable as you can be. But sometimes you just got to catch your breath, gather yourself, and start working your way back toward the front.
Yeah, and sometimes it's easier to work your way from the back of the pack up through the pack anyway because you can carry that momentum and you can make better decisions as you're coming from the back and looking up through there.
And that also gives you a chance to evaluate your car, what kind of moves you can make. If you run up in the first 2 or 4 like he has most of this race, you don't really know what you have if you got to make a move, and he sees he's got a car that he can move with.
I know qualifying wasn't clean, but the race has been that. How about 65 laps to start under green? No cautions yet today, and our longest green flag run, you saw it there a year ago, 29 laps.
We couldn't even run 2.5 minutes in qualifying without wrecking half the field. And these guys are racing side by side. This is great action. They're fixing to catch a pack of slower cars. Be a chance for them to mess up, but so far, really good driving.
Oh, come on. You guys know it's a ticking time bomb. As that lap counter goes from 67 to 68 to 69, the intensity just picks up every lap as we get closer to the end. So it's hard racing right now, and everybody seems to be somewhat organized, but as we get to the end, everybody will want to start pushing and shoving a little bit harder.
On board with Eric Almirola.
These cars, they move around so much, and that's really the hardest part about trying to draft with somebody is just really driving straight, especially through the tri-oval here, because as you go in, that car starts to get light and you move around and cars are dancing back and forth and on the verge of out of control. So it's definitely hard to drive them straight as you're in a pack and things are moving like this.
It seems like they drive better in the turns. When you're loaded up down in the corners, you've got more grip than when you're going down the straightaways. People bouncing into you, the things want to whip around more on the straightaways. So
absolutely. When that thing's loaded up in the corner and the car's compressed down into the racetrack, you got all that banking to lean on, and as long as somebody stays from the center to the right of your bumper while they're pushing, it's okay. But they are light down the straightaway, especially in that tri-oval.
Kyle Busch, the race leader, in that black 54 in that outside lane, and he's got the rest of the top 5 behind him as they work outside of some slower traffic here, approaching 70 laps complete in today's event. 1 year ago, we had 5 cautions here at Daytona in this race. 4 of the 5 coming after lap 70. Tomorrow on Fox, it's the Great American Race, the season opener for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Noon Eastern time is when our coverage begins. And one of the drivers competing here tomorrow, Regan Smith, filling in for Kurt Busch, who's been indefinitely suspended by NASCAR. Driver 7 in the Xfinity Series, won here 1 season ago, and he's out front right now. Kyle Busch, who was leading while we were away, has been shuffled back to 5th. Dale Jr. was 2nd when we went to break, but he is now dropped back because he had to make an unscheduled pit stop.
When they made their stop under the green flag for the first time, they got 2 tires and didn't get the car full of gas. So they had to come back to change 4 tires, put some gas in it, which was early. And we're getting reports that when he left pit road, he drove through more than 3 pit boxes, and that's against the rules. Plus, he might have a loose wheel. Maybe they would check on that as well. But straight through the pit he went.
Yeah, and I think that the thing from looking up here, I only see 3 pit boxes in front of him, so I don't know if that last stall is actually something that they use as a box and count as a box. But really, there's only 3 pit stalls in front of him, so maybe we can get some clarification on that.
Let's listen to team radio, see if we can gain some insight here.
Yeah, I got a loose wheel. I don't know how bad it is. That's the boys.
Well, he was back on pit road, and they didn't address that.
Yeah, I think in order to serve your penalty on your drive-through, you can't stop in a pit box. So if he does have a loose wheel, he's going to have to come back in again and stop in the pit box.
Matt, you've been covering it. What are they saying down there?
He says going up to speed, definitely a loose wheel, but he thinks he can ride it out until the next stop.
I tell you something else that happens here. When you start pitting under green and you start coming on and off pit road, those brake rotors start vibrating.
Let's see if we can get some clarification on leaving the pit. The rule is you cannot drive through more than 3 pit stalls. There's 1, there's 2, there's a 3rd, and that would be a 4th, but there isn't a car there.
There's nobody in it. Interesting.
But even at that, it was really close.
Well, close is
and I know, but it looked like maybe he'd even missed it. And obviously, by NASCAR's.
Well, the pro system is black and white. It tells you whether you missed it or not. So he obviously drove through that 4th box. I didn't know that if there wasn't a car there, that counted as a pit box. So I'm learning for tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Make sure I understand exactly.
Definitely learning, that's for sure.
And the reason there would be no car there is in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, only 40 cars competing. So what NASCAR will do sometime is squeeze the pit lane, making that #1 pit stall not an option for teams competing this afternoon, where it would be used tomorrow with 43 cars in the race.
Check out that pack coming after the leaders. Man, those guys are all over one another. This race is it's been like a slinky. They pull together, they stretch apart, pull together and stretch apart. And right now that second pack is where all the intense battling is.
And to clear up one other thing on the pit stall, when NASCAR takes that first pit stall away, they decided to take that first pit stall away so that the car that qualifies first has to go a little bit further distance to kind of even up that fairness on pit road to the speed line.
How about this? No cautions here today. And 46 races at Daytona for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. We have never gone caution-free, but we're now down to 44 laps to go. And that lead group, left of your screen, 9 cars there, and then a big graph coming behind them, Larry.
Yeah, we're getting close to what's going to be this second green flag pit stop. I feel like that teams should need to go to 80 laps. That's 40 to go. But you need to think about this. The last 3 Xfinity Series races here, there's been a green-white checker. But I think this is a great time to get 4 tires. Vince.
Wallace is in. It's going to be a 4-tire change. Also a chassis adjustment to help him with his balance. He's been a little bit too free. Wallace, the rookie, has led 18 laps in this race, but has since fallen back, trying to help him with a little better race car down the stretch.
Well, I think as you see all these pit stops starting to happen, these guys still don't really have a good fuel reading, because the first run of the race, you have your pace laps, you have your warm-up on pit road, you pitted a little bit early. So you have a better reading than what you had, but you still don't have a real one. So there's a possibility for some guys to run out of gas, especially that put 2 tires on and not know exactly how much fuel you put in it. So there's a lot of variables right here that the crew chief has to dance around.
And if you run out of gas right in the middle of that pack, there's going to be a crash.
Absolutely.
You can't avoid it. So you have to be on the conservative side. You can see Regan Smith waving his hand to the cars behind him. He's coming to pit road this lap. He'll dive off of turn 4 to the bottom. let's see if they can pull it off again and everybody pit without any damage.
Had a few issues, but no big accidents. Pretty well executed. The first time we had a cycle of stops back around lap 40. And the stops beginning once again. And as Regan peels off, so does his teammate, Chase Elliott. They will work together off pit road in the draft. Let's cover the 9 stop. Here's Jamie.
Well, remember last stop they took lefts only. This time it'll be right sides and they'll fill them up with fuel. Vince?
Regan Smith is in as well, the 7. He took right sides only the first stop. This time it's going to be a 4-tire stop. Regan Smith pitted from the lead. Been a strong car for him today, this Junior Motorsports machine, the winner in this race a year ago.
A couple of seemingly routine pit stops.
And the caution is out, first time today, and I believe it's for the tire down here. Chris Cockrum had also come to pit road, tire rolled away, got into the infield grass, and with that, with 40 laps remaining, we now have a caution.
That's a big break for Chase Elliott and Regan Smith. They've got their stops done. They'll remain on the lead lap and have their pitting done.
Yeah, they're going to be the leaders.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
when this is all said and done, this is going to work out great for Chase and Regan because they're going to lead. And Dale Jr., you know, he's going to get a lap back to try to get back in this race.
I don't know if he's going to get a lap back or not. He's not our lucky dog. And Elliott and Regan Smith will stay on the track, keeping Earnhardt a lap down. So he'll have to race for that lucky dog on another stop, I think.
But I do think Bubba Wallace is going to get the free pass. Another one of those drivers that had come down pit road under green, and that could be big for him.
Check out the 13 of Chris Cochran. They're making a pit stop, and his tire gets away. I want to see your skills again, Harv. Watch this thing go. Watch Chase Elliott barely miss it.
Yeah, you're going to see the tire right about here.
And it's going to go over to here.
That's right. And we'll clear it so you can see it finish its way over to the grass, and that's what caused our caution.
Adam, would you like to draw something?
I'm going to let the experts handle that. The telestrator today for Daytona 500 winners only. I'll let you guys handle it.
But I really think Dale Jr., I believe since he had to pit early, he's probably going to take the wave around.
But I don't think he can get the wave around because the fact that Regan Smith and Chase Elliott will be the leaders by staying on the racetrack.
You're right.
So they'll be
behind him. It's interesting stuff. That's why sometimes we have to have extra caution laps to get all this stuff sorted out when this type of thing happens.
And pit road here is closed, and that's why everyone stayed out, and that gives us an opportunity to step aside. Under caution for the first time today at Daytona, Kyle Larson, the race leader. Pit road, a busy place when we return. Second cycle of pit stops today coming under caution for a number of drivers that have spent time out front. Kyle Busch, Eric Jones, Kyle Larson among those that came down the pit lane. And the youngster Eric Jones we saw slide through his pit stall, so he likely lost some position. Let's go back and take a look.
Just trying to get all you can get. He came in there hot, wanting to make the fastest pit stop to get that track position. We've talked about how difficult it is to make moves at the front of the pack. He tried to gain a little extra time there, and it wound up costing him. He came in the pits in third, probably going outside the top 10.
And NASCAR's got their new pit road officiating system set up. Got 8 officials over in the pro trailer. You see the green lines, the tire gets away. The camera will pick up that movement, red flag that stop. A NASCAR official will go back, review the stop, and determine if in fact it was a penalty.
You can see those lines there. The green line around the pit is what the NASCAR folks are going off of.
And they're the officials in the pro trailer.
They look like they're enjoying doing it as well.
Yeah. Hey guys, give a wave. You're on NASCAR on Fox. 38 laps to go in the season opener for Xfinity teams. Back live at Daytona International Speedway, closing on the latter stages of the season opener for the NASCAR Xfinity Series here at the World Center of Racing. Good to have you with us on Fox Sports 1 with Michael Waltrip, a 2-time Daytona 500 winner and defending Sprint Cup Series champion, and the man who won the 500 back in 2007, Kevin Harvick. I'm Adam Alexander, and hey, we've had some good stuff today. Let's face it, 20 lead changes, 8 different drivers out front, Dale Jr. driving through the field. And it's going to be a fun finish.
You know, 20 different lead changes, 8 drivers leading this race, but the 2 guys that made that pit stop before the caution came out, Regan Smith and Chase Elliott, they think they're in the driver's seat because they've got the track position. How crazy is that, Kevin? You're at Daytona where you can draft, you can make all these moves. They're pumped about getting track position, and we still got 35 laps to go. How are they going to hold on?
Well, it is very hard to win these races. You know that, no matter what series it's in. And when you have a little bit of luck on your side, you're like, yes, I am so excited that it finally went our way today. So you take it and you try to make it productive and produce a result that you want to win.
You said it during the break, better lucky than good. And here we have a 4-box, time shifted on pit stops to give you an idea of how much of a difference the crews can make.
These drivers are trying everything they can, Adam, to get any advantage. You saw the young kid, Eric Jones, slide just through his box. That lost him his track position. He's outside the top 10. The other 3 guys have differing strategies. Kyle Busch got 4 tires, as did Kyle Larson, but 2 tires on Ty Dillon. He gets out of the box first and gains track position.
So Eric Jones had problems. He went from 3rd to 11th. And for Bubba Wallace, who came down pit road, he went through too many pit stalls exiting this from NASCAR. See the red X?
Bam!
Can't do that. That was pit stall number 4. He needed to be outside the white line before he got there.
And that's old habits die hard. There was no reason for him to be over that way. And I think that's important. You got to take your cut to the right and get out of town.
Absolutely.
Green flag back in the air. 35 laps to go here at Daytona.
35 laps to go at Daytona, and we're celebrating track position. Golly, that's a different world. These guys have got to battle hard to get to the front.
Kyle Larson also lost some track position there on that cycle of stops. An uncontrolled tire on board here with Chase Elliott.
Yeah, you see Chris Buescher giving him as many pushes as he thinks he can get away with. So you got Regan leading this pack on the bottom, and they're formed up really well. But I can just tell you, it gets more intense every time we get closer to the end of the race, and the pushing and shoving gets harder and harder, and it also becomes harder to pass.
And you know, the key to bogging someone down and slowing their momentum is side drafting. And when you're bobbling around and you dip over to side draft a guy, that's when contact happens, and that's when crashes happen.
What's going on with our defending champ, Jamie? He's 2nd right now.
Yes, Chase Elliott, you guys were talking about luck. Well, they had luck on their side, pitting just at the right time. Now, the fuel situation with him, they're good to the end, and his crew chief, Ernie Cope, just telling him right now, because of the cautions, they are good for 2 green-white checkered finishes in case we need it.
You can see Ryan Reed really pulling over there and side drafting on the 9 car of Chase Elliott. Elliott battling there with Chris Buescher, giving him a push.
And Regan Smith back in a familiar place at Daytona, out front, Vince.
Yeah, of course, won this race last year, was 2nd here in July. Just took 4 tires on that last stop after 2 on the first stop. They were going to go with 2 tires only on this last stop, but he went through slid the tires just a little bit too much. They had to switch to a 4-tire change. We'll see if it pays off for him here at the end.
And that's what's so tough, and what makes it challenging for crew chiefs is, as a driver, if you slide through that stall at all or lock them up getting onto pit road, pitting under green like they did, now all of a sudden your strategy has to change. You got to go with 4 to be safe.
Well, the one thing they all had in common is they had to get that car full of fuel, because if you don't get that car full of fuel and you know that that's the length of that last run, then you're in trouble.
Some adversity late in the race for Kyle Larson, Matt.
He hit pit road in the first position. Now, the game plan for that team was simply 4 tires no matter what, knowing that would be their last scheduled pit stop. They gave him 4 tires and a tool through the window. Apparently an issue with one of his mirrors. They handed him an Allen wrench through the window so he could try to tighten it, because he could not see through the mirror because it was vibrating so much. And guys, you've had tools handed to you through the middle. You guys multitask behind the wheel.
Well, I can tell you this. I've worked on the shifter and put some vice grips on there before, but I've never tried to work on my mirror. And that's probably the difference between, maybe that's a generation gap, because when my mirror vibrated, if I complained about it, they would just say, all right, well, you're out of luck today. So you reached up and you held on to it to try to keep it from vibrating.
How about that? A great example of what it takes to stay up front here at Daytona. Those 3 cars were just bumping back and forth with each other, hanging on to that lead. I still think it's crazy to think we're sitting here with 30 laps to go, thinking we have to keep this track position in order to be able to win at Daytona. But that's the case. It's going to be really difficult, Kevin, to race your way up through this pack.
Yeah, and you just don't want to be the weak link right now. And what I mean by that is you don't want that gap in front of you. If you have a gap in front of the car, you are the guy that's slowing your line down. So when you see those first 3 cars in the middle lane there formed up, and you get everybody formed up, your line is going to move faster. So the better you can form your line, the better off your line is going to go. You just don't want to be that weak link.
What about Daniel Suarez with Kyle Larson forming another line? And they're making some progress, too. That 3rd groove on the high side has drove up to the middle of the pack.
Tell you, Ryan Reed doing a nice job. Sophomore campaign driving for Jack Roush, a little drafting help for Brad Keselowski. from Team Penske. Ironically enough, the Roush Fenway organization, Roger Penske, never won an Xfinity race here at Daytona.
Here's what I'll tell you. I know for a fact they can run 2 wide and not crash, but they're going 3 wide. There's a wreck of brewing, I can promise you. How can they avoid the big one when they're pushing 3 wide on the outside with a rookie leading the pack?
J.J. Yaley, quick in qualifying today. Now he's in the mix late, leading that group coming up the middle. Suarez and Larson in that outside lane.
Yeah, and it's such a dance right now, you know, as to how hard you can push and how far you can push him, where you see Kyle Larson pushing Daniel there up to the front, and then you have Ryan Reed out front. And that's the thing I love about Daytona. And I told you before the broadcast started, it's the underdog guys that I'm rooting for today. I love the race in itself, but you can see all these guys leading a race that might not ever lead another race at any other track this year against Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski. So this is fun.
What about Kyle Larson? You got to give it to that kid. He figures out a way to get to the front no matter where we're at or what series we're running. Heck, he won the 24 Hours of Daytona just a month ago. He's raced up front in the Cup Series. He's won Xfinity and trucks. And now he's figured out a way to push a rookie who struggled all day today all the way to the front.
Now, keeping in mind, Suarez, outside lane in that orange car, he's 2 laps down in 30th, but he's up there with that lead draft, and right now trying to help pull Kyle Larson to the lead.
You never know who your friends are, Adam. You'll take them anywhere you can get them. If he's running 30th and you can put a bumper to him and get to the front, he's going to be your buddy.
Yeah, and the 6 had a really big moment down the backstretch right there, and that's just trying to get into a line and push and shove, and you can feel the intensity of this race picking up because everybody knows how important it is to be up front.
Check this out. This is a big wiggle on the front straightaway. He's up against the car in front of him, makes a move to the inside. Woo! I don't think he meant to make that move. Okay, we got to make a note. At lap 91, 3 wide on the outside, pushed all the way to the lead. I didn't see that one coming. I didn't know that high side could make that move.
Yeah, and I think that's just the aggressive nature of how hard you want to push. And the more cars you can get bumper to bumper like that, the faster that line's going to go. So.
Prior to today, the only place where... Oh, big trouble. That's the rookie Suarez up and over Regan Smith, the big one at Daytona in the Tri-Oval.
42 turned us right there. All right, just stop, Daniel.
Scott Lagasse, window net is down, good for him. Suarez able to drive his Toyota to the garage.
Second car in just a few hours for that young man. Up and over for Regan Smith.
You ain't going nowhere. Yeah, can't really do anything about it.
Chad Boat.
Sorry, guys.
Regan Smith had put himself in great position, but he's not going to repeat today. Ryan Sieg pulling his car to the garage, and Justin Marks is also pulled to a stop in the grass. And that's good to see. Regan Smith, after flipping on the front straightaway here at Daytona, climbing from his car.
Let's see if we can see what happens. Kyle Busch was pushing the rookie, giving him a shove here. Kyle Larson, excuse me. And it looks like he just gets him in a bad spot right there, and he just got behind in his steering.
Yeah, he got too far to the right, and coming off of the corner right there, that car unloads as you come off of that banking, and it just took just a little bit too much. And that's that window that you have to push. And if you get outside of the center of that back bumper, the way that the front and back bumpers are curved, it's going to spin that car out.
Remember we said lucky versus good? Here's Chase Elliott.
Watch this job.
There's going to be a wreck behind you. Going to be a wreck. Get up and get out of the way. Oh, yeah, big wreck behind you. Big wreck behind you.
Yeah, and Chase is lucky his car is still rolling because he has some damage that he's going to have to fix.
Watch this job that the Ream car, the 33 of Austin Dillon, does. When 18 flips over the 7, holy.
Tell you, Chris Buescher did a heck of a job sneaking through there too in that number 60 Cheez-It car.
Great job by Buescher all day long.
Those are some great pictures.
We have the best cameramen and women in all of sports. I mean, the images they capture from so far away, and they never miss. Watch this. Watch the Ream car, the black car, third back on the outside. He's going to see this crash developing. Regan Smith turns over, and he misses him.
Wow. And I don't think there was any contact at all between the 33 and the 60.
Yeah, you know, Kevin, we've heard all the time, you got one under you, but that's not what they mean.
Right. Yeah, they don't mean you're actually underneath it. That's for sure.
Usually that means on your inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Not literally sitting on your roof.
Oh, we got some damage on the right rear. But that shouldn't hurt him any. They come in, put some tape on that, and he can go again.
27 laps to go at Daytona. Second caution of the day. It's not for a tire getting away. It's for a big crash on the front straightaway. Our second caution of the day, with 27 laps to go at Daytona, has turned into a red flag, and we now know what happened to Austin Dillon and how he got that damage on the right rear.
Amazing job of missing the crash. They come to slow down to stop for the red flag, and you can see the yellow car right there on the back of the screen. Austin pulls up to stop. Yellow car doesn't. That's Mike Wallace in the 26, and he clobbers Dillon.
He also hit that car that's right behind the 42 a little bit there with his on the left side door.
So our second caution of the day turned into two cautions in one.
Yeah, Austin goes through that whole wreck.
Amazing
doesn't
job.
hit a thing, and then comes to stop under red and has the back torn off his car.
More than 10 cars involved in this accident at lap 93, and it all got started when Daniel Suarez went sideways coming to the tri-oval after what appeared to be contact from the 42 of Kyle Larson. Let's listen to what they're saying on 42 team radio.
The 18 just kept moving around. He tried to go up as we were pushing, and he moved up too high, and we hit him in the left rear and started to turn him. and then hit the 7 and flipped him over.
You can see they're off turn 2, and Kevin, you nailed it. The track flattens here, and it was just more than that rookie could stand. Maybe anybody can stand. A guy pushed him right there, turns him around.
Yeah, it's just as you roll up off that banking on turn 4 right there, even off of turn 2, the banking rolls off so fast, and the car gets light even when you're by yourself. And when you're that far to the right, and the car is coming up off the corner to unload, it's just there's a lot of things that lined up right there to make that car loose and unfortunately caused a wreck.
And watch the job that Larson does, though. He's got a car at 190 miles an hour crashing in front of him. His hands never move. He knows he doesn't have any options, really. He just holds it steady and misses the crash.
And let's give a call, too, to the safety of these vehicles and the hard work that NASCAR continually puts in to make sure when everyone climbs behind the wheel, they're fine when things like this happen, because Regan Smith, who went up and over and got hit by a number of drivers, climbed from that number 7 Chevrolet and walked away, and that's always good to see. We're under a red here at Daytona. It's Ryan Reed out front, Brad Keselowski, Eric Jones, Kyle Larson, J.J. Yaley, the top 5. The 2015 NASCAR season is here. Get in on the action and play the brand new Fox Fantasy Auto Racing game. New features, more fun, and always easy to play on your PC or your mobile phone. Pick your team of 5 drivers and challenge your friends for weekly and season-long prizes. Go to foxsports.com/fantasy and play now. Chase Elliott has arrived in his pit. What's the damage report, Jamie?
Quite a bit of damage on the front end there. Rick Hendrick just showed up here. He's watching over the crew. Ernie Cope is off the pit box watching. They're taking a good look, though. They didn't know if they had to take it back to the garage. Let's go to Matt.
5 different crew members working on the right side. Big Mike Sears, he had a Sawzall. They're trying to trim away different parts of the sheet metal. They've got some bare bond out there just trying to clean up that right rear corner as best they can.
So I know we've shown you multiple angles of the crash that brought out the caution, then the red, and now we're back under caution. But this is really nice.
Well, this is Kevin showing off now. He's really taken to this telestrator. He's learned how to put fancy arrows, the direction of the cars. We talked about the bank falling off. That gets Suarez sideways, and
yeah, and it's really the perfect storm of 2 things happening. Kyle Larson pushing too far to the right, and the banking falling off, and it's just bad news for Suarez.
And really, you can't put any blame on Suarez. He was trying to do all he could do, just driving the car straight as he could with that big push and the circumstances of the track change.
And even not even putting the blame on Kyle. I mean, you know, they're all pushing and shoving, and like I say, that tolerance is about 6 inches wide on the front and back bumper, and when it gets a little bit out of a line and you get in a situation like that where the banking is falling off, things happen.
I'm afraid the body damage is going to be part of Chase's problems, but there could be some suspension damage. There's a lot of contact with that right front tire when he hit into that other car off of 4 there.
Yeah, if I had to do this again, I would ask him if his steering wheel was still straight while we were interviewing him. But really, you're going into damage control right here for all these guys that had damage. No tire rubs, get the splitter off of the ground, and make sure the hood doesn't fly up.
Aerial coverage today provided by Goodyear. Everything they learn making tires for the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what rolls into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR.
Kevin, why don't you ask him if his wheel's straight? That'd be some good information to have. Maybe we'll learn something here.
I think we let Mikey do it.
Let's go from the driver's seat.
Let's try it. What the heck? Hey, Chase, it's Michael Waltrip again. I was wondering, is your toe knocked off? Is that orange tape supposed to be slightly to the left or straight up?
Yeah, just keep them straight up.
I think that was the crew.
Yeah, I think they're still working there. Yeah, and I think you see all this damage right here. I think, you know, you see the bare bond and stuff on the front of this nose, but it's got to be sealed up and off the ground.
They're back, Jamie.
Hey guys, Ernie Cope actually asked that exact question, Kevin, when you asked it, and he said it's straight up, everything is fine, the toe is fine. He just shut it off though. They're gonna work on the front end, tape it just right so that tape doesn't fall off, but they're not sure if all of the suspension components are okay. So he has shut it off and raised his visor.
Yeah, and a lot of times you'll shut the engine off just so the engine doesn't get overheated, because they're going to sit there and they're going to work until the very last second to where they think they can take off a pit road and beat the pace car back to the end of the line down there when they come off a pit road. So they're going to take every second they can, and you see them putting a piece of nose on the front of the right front there to try to make it as aero as good as possible.
Let's watch the contact he makes.
Right, so going to be a wreck behind you. Going to be a wreck. Get up and get out of the way. Oh, yeah, big wreck behind you. Big wreck behind you. Look out, heads up off pit road, guys. Heads up off pit road. Heads up off pit road.
And evidently, Chase has done something that NASCAR did not like, because and apparently he didn't heed to NASCAR's instructions to stop when the red flag came out, so he will start at the rear along with John West Townley once we do go back green.
Well, that piece of nose isn't going to work either. There's going to be air get underneath of it and just rip that right off, and we're on one to go, so Chase's problems are going to be continuing.
Yeah, and that's really, like I said earlier, damage control at this point. You want to try to make sure nothing's going to fly off, nothing's going to rub the ground or rub the tires, nothing's going to hit the ground. So unfortunately, they're going to have to come back in and put that right front on, or that piece of nose will be the next caution.
2014 so good for junior motorsports. Won 9 times, including here 1 season ago when Regan Smith got the checkered flag. He is out. And our defending champion, also driving for Dale Jr., Chase Elliott, having problems, and he's not the only one. Landon Castle sitting idle in the grass. I'm not sure why, and I have no idea how you could get there.
Well, he's off turn 2 down almost the end of the back straightaway. I mean, it seems like
something's wrong with the steering.
Had to break. Like
it
just.
We saw that last night too in the truck race. We had a couple pieces get broke and a couple guys hit the inside wall there, but there's definitely something wrong in the steering of that car.
We had been given the 1 to go signal. I think you said that, Michael, but the caution lights have come on once again.
Break for Chase Elliott, but
sure
I still think that top piece is going to have some tape. You can see the gap between the yellow and the black. Air will get under that and just rip that baby right off. We got to tape that nose piece to the nose.
They're either going to have to tape it up or get another piece that matches all the way down to the splitter, because that piece is going to fly off.
So the season opener today, and the fun continues for the NASCAR Xfinity Series next weekend on Fox Sports 1 as we go to Atlanta. The season just underway, and you know it will be entertaining on that old worn-out surface for all of NASCAR's young superstars. We're on the air Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live at Fox Sports Go.
1 to go. Let's try this again. Still got the Landon Castle car over on the back straightaway, but maybe they think they can get him hooked up and pulled off before the field gets back to him.
So a few more laps under caution, which will help everyone who was a little bit concerned about any fuel mileage issues, and not just beyond the scheduled distance. We thought everybody was okay there, but certainly if we were to have some green-white checkers, and based on what we have seen, that is likely to happen here this afternoon. Resetting our top 10, Ryan Reed leads. Brad Keselowski is second. Eric Jones, Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher the top 5. Then it's J.J. Yaley, Brian Scott, Ty Dillon, Eric Almirola, Elliott Sadler the top 10. When we go green, it will be 22 laps to go. Fox Sports Supports is proud to team with Boys and Girls Clubs of America for another year, supporting their mission and helping young people to reach their full potential through programs that promote character and leadership, education, healthy lifestyles, and more. For more information, visit foxsportssupports.com.
As a car owner, this is when you get mad, because you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get these cars right, and I guarantee you there's going to be some bare bond duct tape flapping at the front of this pack by the time this race is over. So aerodynamics and everything are important right up until it's time to really start pushing and shoving. But even though your car's a little bit tore up, as long as those tires are there, a few dents here and there, you're still in the race.
We talked about how difficult it is to pass at the front of the field. Kyle Busch is outside of the top 10. We know how aggressive he is. We know he knows how to punch holes in the competition and fight his way to the front. He'll be fun to watch.
And the lights just went back on our Toyota Camry pace car, so we're going to wait again. And I want to bring your attention to our scoring monitor. Right now in the 16th position, 1 lap down, Dale Earnhardt Jr. but most importantly, he's the first car in that category. Should we get another caution, Junior gets the free pass back on the lead lap, and that's all we need for a little late race drama out of that 88.
I tell you, the other thing that is really exciting is you have Ryan Reed leading the race. You have Chris Buescher, Eric Jones, J.J. Yaley. I mean, I hate to keep harping on this underdog story, but I'm excited for those guys.
Well, and guys like Ross Chastain and Dakota Armstrong still on that lead lap, too, with chances to fight up toward the front. There goes the tape we were looking for, Kevin, to try to seal that new. I don't think that's going to hold.
I don't either.
Eric Jones third right now, an up and down day for the youngster, but he's where he needs to be right now, Vince.
Well, and I think that's part of the maturation process for any young driver during the course of a race, particularly one of this nature, to be in the front, to have to go to the back, fight your way up. He had a problem on pit road on one particular stop, slid through the box. But he told me before the race, I just want to run all the laps and be in position at the end. And as I mentioned earlier, he believed he could win. To say, I think I can win this race, saying it humbly, but that's the confidence he has and his team has in him. He's only going to run 17 races this season, but he is a driver that, as we said earlier, is a can't-miss prospect. At least that's the reputation he has in the garage area.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a shame he's only going to run 17 races because that kid can win anywhere. Whether it's a super speedway, short track, he's just like Chase Elliott. He's a special one.
Yeah, and when they don't come along that often. We saw Chase Elliott do things last year we haven't seen in a while, and to have the same thing with Eric Jones. The move he made on the last lap last night for a shot to win in the Truck Series was fun, and now he's in a position to win Xfinity. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a checkered flag here today.
Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
A lot of great storylines inside the top 10. 21 laps to go when we go back green. Reed, Keselowski, Jones, Larson, Buescher. Some of the names maybe you aren't familiar with, but you will become very familiar with them because the NASCAR Xfinity Series is where the future stars of NASCAR are born. And one of those young kids could put their name on a winning trophy at Daytona here today. Green flag waving once again at the World Center of Racing. Been 40 minutes since we were in a green condition here at Daytona.
And my heart hasn't slowed down during any of those minutes because I'm just anticipating what's ahead. There's plenty of cars left here to have another major pileup, and these guys will just get more and more aggressive as the laps wind down. Ryan Reed leading the race. He was fourth here in July, so he's no stranger to the front of the pack. That young man.
Only laps he had led in his career prior to today. 29 laps at Talladega last spring. He likes this plate racing.
And all those kids lined up on the inside row there, they're all really brave, and they haven't been in a lot of circumstances where they've done things wrong, so they don't have a lot to think about right now. They just know that they have a chance to win the biggest race of the year in the Xfinity Series.
And what a smart move that Cheez-It car made. Chris Buescher just drove right out in front of Brad Keselowski. He saw that blue oval coming toward him. He whipped out and got right in front of Brad, and that's going to propel him to the lead.
A kid that missed the race a year ago in his rookie season because of rain during qualifying, comes back today, gets it in the show, and in line for a victory. It'd be the second of his career.
How about those Roush cars up front? How many wins do you think they have here in Xfinity, Kevin?
It's 0, and that is unbelievable.
He said, I'm not playing your game.
Yeah, as many races as the Roush organization has won in this particular series, it is unbelievable they have not won a race here.
Are you sure this is the first time you've done this? Have you been at home practicing?
He's been reading the notes.
I may have cheated just a little bit.
What a battle.
There you look at the running order of the Roush Fenway drivers.
And sometimes this is about positioning yourself in front of a guy that you feel like is the best pusher. Brad Keselowski is a great pusher. He obviously wants to win the race, but sometimes there's nowhere to go. So Chris is in a great spot right now. Obviously, Eric Jones is beyond his years in the way that he races, and puts Ryan Reed in a great spot too. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
And you got to trust the guy behind you to give you the push, but not spin you around, and also not get locked to you. Because if NASCAR deems you're being pushed, if your cars are locked together, not only does the guy pushing get black flagged, the guy he's pushing gets black flagged. So it just takes a lot of teamwork, a lot of trust up near the front of this pack.
Yeah,
See
we
that
saw
debris flying there?
Huge piece of debris. So
some bear bond off of Chase Elliott's car on board with that Napa Chevrolet.
We knew that wasn't going to work. It's just it's too much turbulence. He's in the back of that pack. Car's running nearly 200 miles an hour. It's going to rip tape off for sure, and it's going to take also his nose piece. We see that going away here, and the caution's flying because of the debris.
We called that one.
Yes, sir.
Third caution of the day. Tough break for Chase that it didn't hold, but he gets a caution, can come down and work on it some more, and that's big because our defending champion, as of now, still being scored inside the top 15. And the first car 1 lap down, Ross Chastain will get the free pass, putting 16 cars on the lead lap with 18 to go.
Chastain was able to beat Dale Jr. out for that free pass. So good driving there by Ross Chastain, getting that 4 car back on the lead lap.
I knew Dale Jr. didn't get the free pass because we didn't hear a roar from the crowd here at Daytona.
We're going to have to see that that Napa Auto Parts team for Dale Jr.'s bunch there on Chase Elliott. Maybe put a whole nose up there on the front. They put a half, it ripped right off. I think maybe a whole section of the nose over there, they could get that to stay.
It almost might be better. It seems like everything is attached over there. It almost might be better to just seal the fender up right there and just take your lumps with the dents and hope that you get out of here with all the wheels still rolling and you're on the lead lap and just take what you can get, because right now the fender has a big gap, but that dent in the nose is not that bad, and they sealed the splitter up, so it might just be better to just leave it alone and seal the fender up.
And if there was a hiccup in his resume a year ago, which was a dream season, rookie campaign, wins Rookie of the Year, and takes home the championship, it was this team's performance when it comes to restrictor plate racing. 3 races on the schedule. Each time they finished outside the top 10. Very uncharacteristic of this group when you consider how strong they were start to finish a season ago.
And that stuff goes in cycles. You know, I always tell everybody you have a 50-50 chance when you come to Daytona and Talladega. You're either going to have a good finish or you're going to wind up on the tow truck. So right now he's right in the middle. He's got damage, and he's lucky enough that his car's still rolling. So it's going to damage control and do what you have to do to get this car to the end of the race in the best condition that it's in and not make it worse.
Well, there obviously weren't any steering issues or suspension problems because he was able to hang right with the pack. Just body work needs to be done.
What's the latest down there, Jamie?
Well, Ernie Cope is appreciating our coverage right now, getting a perfect view of the damage of the car. He said that was our right front fender, guys. What we're going to do is just seal up the hood. Just use that bare bond and seal it up. And also, Chase is telling them right now he's running a little hot. 245 on the water, 265 oil, but after they tape it down, they think he's going to come down in the temperature department. So they just need to seal it up and get it to the end.
Make sure that one's sealed first before you put another one on top of it, guys. And the front edge seal has got to be sealed up.
So they continue to work on the machine of our defending champion, Chase Elliott. Going to be less than 15 laps to go here at Daytona when the green flag goes in the air once again. Good to have you with us late on a Saturday afternoon at the World Center of Racing. With Michael Waltrip and Kevin Harvick, I'm Adam Alexander. We talked earlier, who are the favorites? You said you'd love to see an underdog in victory lane, but now we're getting down to it. What do we anticipate for these final 15 or so laps?
Well, the stout cars of Buescher and Reed were able to run right up front and hold that lead. Kyle Busch, I talked about him starting outside the top 10. He wasn't able to advance very far. So I'm liking Kevin's story about an underdog winning here. I know that Ryan Reed, I know that Chris Buescher have the talent to pull the job off, but it'll be interesting to see what Brad Keselowski can do. We saw that third line, 3 wide on the high side, really push to the front with Kyle Larson earlier. Will that groove work for these guys going into the finish of this race? It'll be interesting to watch.
Well, I think as you see those 2 lines form tighter and tighter, it's going to be harder for that third groove to get forward, because it's hard to make up ground when those bottom 2 rows are side by side, bumper to bumper. So it's going to be a lot of pushing and shoving. I know that for sure.
And I thought today was a no-brainer. You need to be down low, protect the yellow line to win this thing. But we have seen on a number of occasions that outside lane gets a run. You time it right, someone may be able to pass on the outside here for a victory.
Well, you think track position's a no-brainer, and we see the 2 guys that had that crash. There's no way you can have a black and white plan. You have to just be ready to adapt. You have to be fluid with your moves. You might have to shuck a teammate to block another piece of another momentum line down. There's no way you can have a plan. You have to adapt every lap.
And there's a lot of hungry guys that have never won a race before that want to win this race, and this is the biggest race that you can win all year.
And for those guys out front, what's the balance? How much time you spending looking out the windshield versus checking that rearview mirror to see what's happening behind you?
You're looking backwards more than you are forward for sure, because right now it's about playing defense. You want to be on offense, but you have to play defense more than you can be on offense, just because there's so many guys that are pushing and shoving behind you.
And we're starting a new era. This is the Xfinity Series, and we're at Daytona. No one is thinking one thing about points right now. They're thinking about getting a trophy at Daytona. It's the best trophy you can have in the Xfinity Series, and there's a lot of hungry racers going for it.
Less than a lap before we go back green here at Daytona. We remind you, college basketball is back on Fox Sports 1. Monday night, it's all about the Big East, and you know we're just over a week away from March, so things are getting serious. Monday, Xavier on the road to get St. John's in New York. That one tips at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Then Tuesday, a Big East doubleheader. Providence, Villanova at 7, followed by Creighton making a trip to Chicago to get DePaul at 9 p.m. Eastern time. You're home for Big East basketball. Fox Sports 1, and as always, you can watch the action on Fox Sports Go. Front row on the restart. Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher. Behind them, Kyle Larson, Ryan Reed, J.J. Yaley, Eric Jones, Brian Scott, Eric Almirola, Ty Dillon, Elliott Sadler, the top 10.
Elliott Sadler proved to have a really stout car early in the going. Can he get hooked up with Ty Dillon, Kyle Busch? They're all back there 9th, 10th, and 11th. See if they can make a move up toward the front. We saw the damage for Austin Dillon. He's recovered to 13th. You know he's going to help his brother.
And the one thing every driver in the top 10 has in common, not a one of them has ever experienced victory here at Daytona in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Could change today. 14 laps to go as we go green again.
I just don't see that 54 car sitting back there on the bottom in 11th spot too long.
Yeah, he's just in a tough spot there. It's like we talked earlier. You get stuck on the bottom on these restarts, and that top lane gets pinned to you, and you really can't make a move. So they're pushing and shoving really hard right now, so there's going to be a lot of stuff moving around.
Who's going to be the brave one that makes the first move? And you saw right up there in that lead draft, Austin Dillon got that damage on the red flag, but he's a player late.
Yeah, and that's just like we were talking about. You have bare bond, no fenders, and when they get to pushing and shoving like this, it just, it overcomes a lot of things.
A little help from Ryan Reed. Brad Keselowski led that lap. 13 to go at Daytona.
Dale Jr. with a peek to the third lane, decided better of it. There you see Brendan Gaughan trying to whip up there. They get 4 or 5 cars on that high side, guys. I think they can really make a move. We saw it earlier in the race. You get a stout car like Dale Jr. leading the pack up on that third line, we could get something going up there.
And Dale Jr. is fighting for the lucky dog. You know, he's got to do everything he can do to try to get this lap back and get back in this race. So he's trying to be the first car a lap down.
The guy that whipped up there last time was 2 down and drove all the way to the front. Unfortunately, crashed off turn 4, but Daniel Suarez took Kyle Larson, and they charged to the front on that third lane.
And with only 16 cars on the lead lap, and if we had a caution, there'd be 17. Still anybody's game if you can find your way onto that lead lap with 10 or so laps to go.
Here they come. You could see Bubba Wallace. He decided to give it a whirl up there.
Top 4 single file down low. Haven't heard from Ty Dillon in a while. He slides out with his teammate Brian Scott, and now Scott back to the low side.
All just that fast. We're talking about Kyle Busch stuck back in 11th. How about racing into the top 5 here with just over 10 laps to go?
23 lead changes today. We had 23 total in the 2 Xfinity races here in 2014.
It's been a good day.
You see that bottom lane just has the numbers of cars right now. They just literally have more cars that are tighter together and forming a faster line, and you have Brad out there leading the way, and you got a guy in second and Ryan Reed that wants to do everything he can to be a good dance partner, but those guys on the top are starting to get formed up.
Kyle Larson has proven to be a fast car, able to push. If you can hang on to it in front of him, you might be able to get where you're going. You can see Keselowski changing lanes there, whipped up to the high side.
Yeah, he threw that block, but you know those guys just had enough momentum to where he had to make a decision on what he was going to do and which lane he was going to go in. So sometimes momentum is just so fast you have to heed way.
Here comes that third groove, guys.
Eric Almirola making it happen out there. How about Ty Dillon? His only career win, Indianapolis. He could make it 2 here, and we are getting tight 3 wide. That's Kyle Larson forcing the issue outside.
He drove to the front up there once, and he's pushing up there again.
And that's pretty much just normal for him. If there's dust flying up next to the wall, that's just Kyle Larson's groove, so don't get too nervous about it.
Didn't know that worked at Daytona. Evidently it does. Elliott Sadler tucked in that group right behind the Ford of Eric Almirola.
What about the kid Larson? He found another groove out there on the racetrack and made it work. He bailed on the top groove there, dove to the inside of Ty Dillon. He's going to get some help from Chris Buescher, but Dillon's getting a push from Eric Almirola on the high side.
And this is when those 2 cars in the front are getting out there, and the guys have a chance to gain some momentum on them as this pack catches them.
They can't do this for 10 laps.
Eric Jones around. Back across the field. The big one, part 2 at Daytona.
Yeah, they can't do this.
Say hi. Nice straight. Did anybody hit you there, Kel?
A horrific crash for Kyle Busch, who slid through the infield grass and went head on into the inside wall. And he is climbing from that car, and that is an unbelievable sight. Wow.
I mean, he hit that wall head on. It looked like he never even slowed down.
Oh.
And that's a...
There's Samantha. She probably does not know that he's getting out of the car. But that is a great sign. And you saw her say thank you, and perhaps one of our cameramen sharing the news with her. Wow.
Fast car all day long. J.J. Yaley tore up. Chase Elliott, our defending series champion. There's where it started. I don't know how it started, but we saw that 20 car of Eric Jones go around first.
Brian Scott in that top 10 part of the mix. He also got damage.
And Eric Jones went across the start-finish line in 3rd spot that lap and turned just as the exit did the tri-oval.
I just looked up late and caught a glimpse of Kyle sliding through the grass, and you see Kyle here being tended to by medical officials. And he is alert and obviously talking, and that's a great sign. But it's got to be an incredibly helpless feeling as a driver when you're sliding through the grass like that and knowing there's not much you can do at that stage.
Well, and for us, we've been lucky as competitors to see this sport evolve with the safety. And when you hit one of those concrete walls and you've been hitting these safer barriers, you have no idea the difference in what it feels like. And when you hit them head on like that, it is a violent impact.
So one more time at what happened.
Kyle is pushing Eric Jones, or behind Jones. Looks like there might have been some contact there.
There you see Kyle, top of your screen. And now we'll go from our blimp view, and there you see Kyle and Eric racing together, and just follow that 54 car after the contact with the white 20.
Like there was some contact there, and Kyle bumps into Larson, and it turns him to the left. Elliott Sadler hit there by Brendan Gaughan.
And there's the 54. You saw the impact. Now we go on board with Bubba Wallace.
Check up, check up, check up, check up. Mark down, 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 down. Keep rolling hard, keep rolling hard. We're in it, we're in it, we're in it.
Chase Elliott already beat up from an earlier accident. Had a front row seat as well.
9 to go. 20 going to go in the middle. Be a big wreck behind you, 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 big wreck behind you. Caution, 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 caution.
Caution. We're fine. We're fine.
I think looked like he thought he had it cleared and just from the side.
Clear behind him. Go low. One inside. Come on, keep coming low. They're coming down. One coming down. Keep it back high. High. Outside the track clear. Track is clear. Keep coming there. Track is clear.
Saw the 14 of Kel Conley just tried to avoid the crash, and when he turned left, hit Chase Elliott. Dale Jr. working his way through.
Half up now. One back high with you. 3 top. Wrecking. Keep coming top. Keep coming. You're clear. Back it down.
What about that?
Never lifted.
Into the wall. Never let off the gas. He and Ty Dillon slide right through. Great job by Eric Almirola. You can see both of them into the wall, but they were able to slip through. As was Austin Dillon. What a great move by Austin to miss the crash.
And lost in all of this, you saw Dale Jr., how he laid back, didn't get involved, didn't get any damage. He's the first car 1 lap down. He's going to get the free pass, be back on the lead lap, and there will only be a handful of cars on the lead lap when we go back green.
Yeah, and that whole wreck started just because, you know, the cars are light in the tri-oval. Kyle was pushing the 20 car, doing what he tried to do to advance forward. And you see that 20 car just get a little bit loose, and Kyle was still right there on his bumper. And when he started swerving around, that car just shot that car out of control.
You've said it several times today, both of you. Explain what it means when the car is light.
Well, that car is light right there as Kyle's pushing him. So Eric's trying to just let it have its head and go as straight as possible through the tri-oval. And then they become not centered anymore. And as Eric starts to come back down the racetrack to try to get back in line, it just spins the car out. Yeah, that is a huge hit for that 54 car, and you know, it looks like that something broke, but nothing broke. What happens there is these cars just get light, and when they take off like that, they just start sliding, and you're out of control going straight sideways.
And Kyle, he was trying to save it as long as he could. He was just barely going sideways. He was trying to save it, and then he noticed, it was obvious he couldn't get it saved, and
they've stabilized or tried to that right leg. And we'll continue to follow the story with Kyle Busch, injured in a crash here at Daytona.